Mangwanani Murie Africa, and welcome to Africa Good Morning on this chilly Thursday morning, the show that keeps you abreast with the latest news across the African continent and beyond. You're joined by Diana Master and Ashwin Beri. Mamukase.
It is chilly indeed, chilly indeed. But we do bring you the news stemming from the African continent as always. Burkina Faso, at least 34 soldiers and army auxiliaries killed in attack. U.S. accuses Wagner Group of using Mali to raise funds and procure arms for the Ukraine war. We'll be looking at these stories and more, as well as crossing over to Zimbabwe to talk to our correspondent Talent Gore as he gives us the latest news on the ground. Stay with Africa Good Morning. Let's get into our top stories. At least 31 soldiers and 3 army auxiliaries were killed on Monday in an attack by suspected jihadists in northern Burkina Faso. The army announced this on Tuesday, with security sources telling AFP that another separate attack had left dozens dead. A supply convoy escorted by military units returning from Djibo, a town besieged for months by jihadists in the Sahel region, was on Monday the target of an ambush in Namisgua in the center-north region, according to Burkina Faso Army statement. The fighting, which was particularly violent, caused significant casualties despite the vigorous response of the units, it added, referring to a provisional toll of 31 soldiers and 3 volunteers for the defense of the homeland killed, while around 10 elements are still being sought by reinforcements dispatched to the scene. Now, according to the army, more than 40 terrorists have been neutralized. The army did not mention in its communique another attack in the same region on Monday, which, according to security sources told AFP, also left dozens dead, the majority of them VDP.
Now, U.S. accuses Wagner Group of using Mali to raise funds and procure arms for Ukraine war. The U.S. has sanctioned entities linked to the Wagner Group, in Mali and the Central African Republic. They advised countries in sub-Saharan Africa to apply strengthened due diligence practices in gold trade and mining. These measures are targeted at containing and stopping the Russian paramilitary outfit's capacity to raise funds for the ongoing war in Ukraine. On Monday, Russia's Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that despite a brief mutiny by the Wagner Group against Russian President Vladimir Putin over the weekend, the group's operations in Africa, particularly in Mali and the Central African Republic, would continue without disturbance. The group rebelled against the Russian government amid escalating tensions between the Russian Ministry of Defense and Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group.
Now, stakeholders from Ireland and Tanzania met in Tanzania yesterday to discuss and approve a book of collection of decided cases on sexual violence against children from the two countries. The gathering of the Hall of Law School of Tanzania was graced by High Court Judge Asina Omar, who also serves at the Temeke One-Stop Judicial Center. It was coordinated by the Institute of Judicial Administration with the funding of the Irish Rule of Law International through the Irish Embassy in Tanzania. Opening the one-day meeting, Judge Asina said the book containing various cases that provide important reference for various people, including those involved in the protection of child rights and the fight against sexual violence on children. This book contains cases that have been decided by the High Court of Tanzania and the Court of Appeal of Tanzania, as well as cases from Ireland related to sexual violence against children.
Now, moving over to South Africa, bitterly cold. South Africa weather warns of disruptive snow, chilly conditions across SA. The South African Weather Service, known as SAWS, warned that some road networks and mountain passes connecting communities on the southern and Drakensberg in the Eastern Cape would be closed on Thursday due to heavy snow.
And in the last of our top stories, the African Union force in Somalia has handed over 3 more military bases to the Somali army as part of a gradual withdrawal meant to conclude by the end of next year. By the end of June, the plan is to withdraw around 2,000 troops from Somalia. Tuesday's handover took place in Adale Mertakwa and Haji Ali in the Middle Shabelle region, bases which fell under the control of the mission's Burundian contingent. So far this year, the AU force has handed over 6 military bases, 5 of them in Middle Shabelle. The first base, located in Heliwa district of the capital Mogadishu, was handed over on 22 January. It was also run by Burundian forces. It is not clear how many AU soldiers have already been withdrawn from Somalia. Somalia has been training new soldiers in Uganda, Ethiopia and Eritrea to replace some 19,000 AU troops currently deployed. That brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we'll be talking to Talent Gore about the news in Zimbabwe.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Now in Zimbabwe, exiled independent presidential aspirant Xavier Kasukuwere has 2 arrest warrants according to the police. Here to give us the story and more, Talent Gore Mamkase.
Tamka edukana mamkase Africa. So Xavier Kasukuwere, who's running for president, who's a candidate who's running for president, has 2 warrants of arrest, and this is according to the police. And Xavier Kasukuwere has since vowed to defy arrest threats and fly back to Harare to launch his election campaign. Police say that Kasukuwere had 2 pending warrants of arrest for absconding, quote, and not surrendering his passport. But the presidential candidate says that this will not stop him from launching his campaign, and is going to fly to Zimbabwe soon, to Zimbabwe, Harare, to launch his presidential campaign. Kasukuwere is a former ZANU-PF a member, and is also the former local government minister. He actually fled Zimbabwe in 2017 when President Emerson Mnangagwa came in and became the president. So right now he's in South Africa and he's busy campaigning whilst he's there, but he's planning to come back to Zimbabwe to launch his presidential campaign. And the police are saying that the moment he touches Zimbabwe, he will be arrested, since he has 2 warrants of arrest.
Very, very interesting. I did manage to see one of his interviews on South African media, and he also mentions the fact that outside of, as he was in exile in Mozambique and Kenya and South Africa, twice he went back to Zimbabwe to face criminal charges, and it is according to his understanding that he was cleared of that. So this is going to be interesting, considering that Zimbabwean elections are around the corner on August the 23rd. Now it seems the United Kingdom is refusing to recognize metal driver's licenses which are held by Zimbabweans. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, as you all know, last week I did a story whereby the Zimbabwean government has introduced new plastic licenses, which are recognizable in SADC. So the United Kingdom is refusing to recognize mental driver's licenses for Zimbabweans living in that country after government introduced no plastic license disc earlier this month. Government availed the Southern African Development Community compliant plastic driver's license to replace the mental disc. Up to the authorities, the new licenses stating categories which conform to the requirement of the United Nations Convention on Road Traffic International Operations. However, the new licenses, however, brought new challenges to Zimbabwean immigrants in the UK who are failing to get their metal licenses converted for use in that country. Apparently, the UK's driver's vehicle licensing is refusing to convert the licenses, saying the old metal licenses no longer meet the criteria set by the Central Vehicle Registry in Zimbabwe. But apparently the CVR in Zimbabwe says that they're going to be are going to be the old licenses in batches in Peru, and already in the UK they're now refusing the metal licenses. So now we don't know what the Zimbabweans, the diaspora, are going to be doing, because as it stands, the CVR is overwhelmed, and they'll be renewing the licenses in batches. So we are going to be monitoring the situation to see how the CVR and the government is going to respond to what the United Kingdom is doing in regards to the life in Zimbabwe.
All right, Talent, we trust that you will give us an update as soon as there is one. Now, an update on the gold mafia documentary, Macmillan Apologizes. Please tell us about this.
Yes, one of the individuals who was mentioned in the Gold Mafia documentary, businessman Ewan Macmillan, has since apologized, saying that he made the remarks under the use of alcohol. This comes months after the 52-year-old businessman and several others, including Zimbabwe's ambassador at large, were exposed in the news network sting operation, claiming they could launder millions of US on behalf of President Emerson Mnangagwa and the government. And in his brief apology, Macmillan said, "I would like to apologize to my family, friends, fellow Zimbabweans, and to all those people offended by behavior and comments as shown in the recent Al Jazeera Gold Mafia series. I made many statements under the influence of alcohol that were boastful, untrue, derogatory, and malicious, that have caused harm to those around me in business and industry that I work in, Zimbabwe's banking and finance sectors." So he's saying that he was under the influence of alcohol, and what he said was untrue, and it was very much boastful. So people are saying that how he's just saying this for the sake of saying it, but what he said meant it. So we're going to see if the government is going to respond to his apology. As it stands, only the general citizens are saying that what he said back then is actually what he thinks of the government.
No, it was very, very interesting to see how even Macmillan was in that documentary in particular. One wonders, was he drunk when he invited the potential criminals to his household? And he did make some racist remarks about black people in business in Zimbabwe. And I wonder, does being drunk make one racist, or does it express a racism that's already there?
And you know what they say, a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts.
Talent Gore, thank you for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
So it's good having you on Africa Good Morning as Diana and I figure out a way to brave the cold. Let's have a look at the weather predictions.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Let's get into our economic news stories. Ghana has reached an agreement with banks to restructure 15 billion Ghana cedi of locally used US dollar and cocoa bills, dollar bonds and cocoa bills. Three sources close to the negotiations have told Reuters. The West African nation is seeking new terms for the restructuring of its domestic debt by the end of June to be able to meet an International Monetary Fund deadline and focus attention on negotiations with external creditors. Ghana concluded the first phase of its domestic debt exchange in February, with 85% of eligible bondholders participating, but needs new terms for another 123 billion Ghana cedi, which is equivalent to 11.18 billion US dollars, to qualify for the next tranche of a 3 billion IMF loan to address its worst economic crisis in a generation. The debt comprises domestic dollar bonds, cocoa bills, pension funds, and debt owed to the central bank.
Now moving over, Kenya's controversial Finance Bill 2023 is now law after the National Assembly passed the proposal, which was signed by President William Ruto. The bill affects many people in the digital space, including content creators and crypto traders. Content creators, for instance, will now have to pay tax based on the earnings they get from their work. The government has possibly been eyeing the industry ever since it gained popularity among thousands of Kenyans who create content for their social media pages. Some creators are also paid handsomely by the brands they push on their platforms, and part of their earnings will now be subjected to some tax. The law defines digital content monetization as offering entertainment, social, literary, artistic, educational, or other material electronically through any medium or channel for payment. This can be done through various methods, including website advertisements, social media platforms, brand sponsorships, affiliate marketing, subscription services, merchandise sales, exclusive content membership programs, licensing content, user-generated projects, and crowdfunding.
Which is a very interesting development, considering that recently President William Ruto, and less than a month ago, hosted over 100 YouTubers at the State House. Perhaps it was be able to, investigate and see how best they can push this bill forward. As we move forward, let's have a look at the economic indicators. All right, well, they say money makes the world go round. I think that's more well applied when it comes to the English Premier League. Manchester United has been limited to $100 million with regards to this transfer window. Arsenal just managed to secure Declan Rice for about $105 million, beating out Manchester City in that bid. Here's Ari Hochad with more international sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. It's the Eastbourne International Tennis Tournament that's going on at the moment, and it's just the week before Wimbledon starts on the 3rd of July. Not all the top-seeded men play in this tournament. Many of the top-seeded women play in world tennis in this tournament. Number 3 seed is Jessica Pegula. She's from the United States. She's one of the favorites also at Wimbledon, and she had a good start to the tournament. She beat Qinwen Zheng by 6-3 and 6-4. Also Caroline Garcia, she's also through to the next round. Not good news for Britain's number 1 player, that's Katie Boulter, and she's out. She lost to Croatia's Petra Matic, and the score there was 6-4 and 7-5. In the men's division, it's a round of 16 taking place, and number 1 and 2 seeds still in the tournament, both of the United States of America. It is Taylor Fritz of the United States. He's number 1 seed, and Taylor Paul, he's the number 2 seed in this tournament. Top players in the world like Carlos Alcaraz, Daniel Medvedev and Holger Rune not playing in this tournament, and they will be in action on the 3rd of July, starting with Wimbledon. Continuing with soccer news, it's still transfer news, and it's the news coming in from West Ham is that they declined the offer from Manchester City that was to buy Declan Rice for £90 million. That is news coming in from the transfer window, and that probably opens the door for Arsenal. They still have to make their third bid. It is West Ham that earlier said that they want £100 million for Declan Rice. He's the England international, also their captain. And Arsenal will probably get close to 100 million, if not exactly 100 million, to try and get Declan Rice to strengthen their midfield. Declan Rice will not be out of contract if both those deals, if neither of Manchester City or Arsenal buy him. He still has a contract that expires only in 2024, and he also has an option to extend it to 2025. Manchester City did confirm to sign another midfielder. He's from Croatia. It is Mateo Kovacic, and he is the Croatian international, and he was bought from Chelsea for €25 million. And to conclude today's international sports news, it is cricket news, and it is England and Wales cricket that have to address a damning report, and that was related to discrimination, related to racism and sexism in the cricket. And that is on all levels of cricket. It's not only in club cricket, it is also apparently at the highest level, also in the change room of the England national cricket team. And according to the Independent Commission of Inquiry, they compiled a report, and that was evidence taken from 4,000 respondents, and that is cricket players from club cricket up to the national level. That's on the eve of the second Ashes test that this report came out, and the captain of the men's team, that is Ben Stokes, said that he is deeply sorry about the report, and said England cricket specifically should go further and be more inclusive and diverse. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk again international sport tomorrow. Goodbye.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Toby Briole.
Please to weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
You're still with Africa Good Morning, but if you're just joining us, here are the news highlights. In Burkina Faso, at least 34 soldiers and army auxiliaries killed in an attack. US accuses Wagner Group of using Mali to raise funds and procure arms for Ukraine war. Tanzania Island launch book on child abuse. Bitterly cold, SA weather warns of disruptive snow, chilly conditions across South Africa. In economic news, Ghana agrees restructuring deal with banks on some domestic debt. Kenya expands TechSnet by going after influencer and crypto earnings.
Those have been our stories on Africa Good Morning. Catch the repeat at 8:30, the same place you found us at 7, DSTV 285, GoTV 25, oneup2.com, and all Namibia Media Holdings social media platforms. Do make sure you stay warm. But from Diana Master and Ashwin Berry, Suraj Raganaka.